Hello, everyone. This is a sort of a free-form lecture on the essay writing process, or the best way I've found and seen to think about and construct an effective history essay. As a reminder, your history essay or your midterm essay for History 320 is due before midnight, before 11:59 p.m. on Wednesday, October 17th. That's just under 2 weeks from now. So here is what I've seen as the best process in years of teaching and helping people craft a strong historical essay. Writing an essay is very, very much a process. It's not a sit down, write history essay, stand up, turn in, that sort of thing. It's a process. It requires quite a bit of thought. It requires some time, and it's not done in one section. You've already started the writing process by viewing the materials and reading the books we've been dealing with. So the first step is what I would call forming an initial impression of the problem and material. What are you being asked? What is the material saying? And what's your overall objective with this? Next step is to take a look at your evidence. What do you have for evidence? And what themes does it fall on? How does your evidence correlate with the question you're choosing to answer? Arrange your evidence along themes, that sort of thing. We'll get into that a bit more in a few seconds. The third major step is to outline. I know everybody dislikes outlining, but it is the best way to really organize your thought process and to write a strong essay. I always recommend starting with your body paragraphs. You can even treat these as little hour long thinking and writing exercises that just sort of get it going and write it over the course of a few different of these blocks. So start writing your body paragraphs. Use the quotes you've chosen to basically work around to create the body paragraphs around. And then once you have your body written, read your paragraphs, revise them, revise your topic sentences to reflect what's in each paragraph, and sort of figure out what you're actually arguing. After you've figured out what you're arguing, step 5 is to really think about what your thesis statement is going to be, and then write your thesis statement down, write an introduction, and then a conclusion. Take a break at this point, reread your essay, have a peer edit it, and do your own editing, and then revise it to its final draft. That's just the short overview. Let's dive into some of the steps real quick. So, to form an initial impression, the prompt is posted on D2L. Take a look at it. There's 4 questions. Figure out what question are you most interested in? Which appeals the most to you? Which do you think you can make the strongest argument for? And then sort of select which question you want to work on. Once you have that, take a look at what sources best fit your question. What materials should you take another look at? What did you find the most useful, enjoyable, or what changed your mind about the materials so far? When you've gone through that, see where your sources agree. Can you find correlation between two rather disparate sources, and how can you use that to argue? And then, do your sources disagree? That's okay. You can use the conflict or disagreement to advance a historical narrative. And then finally, what were some quotes or points that you found to be the most powerful in your evidence? Powerful quotes, powerful examples are great ways to drive an essay. So remember those and consider incorporating them. Once you've decided what essay you've made or you're writing and formed your initial impression in the materials, now's the time to gather your evidence and arrange it based on theme. So go through your readings, go through your notes, go through the examples, flip through the class discussions, that sort of thing. We're trying to basically accumulate everything we can at this point. More is better. Take a look at the main themes of your evidence. What does your evidence discuss? Is there overlap between sources? Do the authors disagree? Agree? However. And in an essay of this length, I'd recommend roughly 2 to 3 pieces of direct evidence per paragraph. You're probably going to have between 3 and 5, maybe 6-ish body paragraphs. It really depends on how you organize your essay. I'd expect between 3 and 5 is probably about average. So you're looking at 8 to 12 direct pieces of evidence, direct quotations, that sort of thing. 2 per paragraph. That's about a good amount. This is a great time to use a whiteboard, index cards, movable items, that sort of thing, to help figure out your thought process, figure out how it's going to flow. You can put the piece of evidence, the longer quote, on an index card, and then sort of see how they're best arranged until you find them to make a convincing argument that supports your overall argument. At this point, if you've done the index card method or the whiteboard method or something, you've arranged your evidence into some sort of spatial arrangement, or you've arranged it on theme or however. So that's you're partway to an outline at this point. Take your arranged evidence and turn it into a semi-formal outline. So figure out which 2 or 3 quotes go together. Figure out how they're connected and what claims you want to make based off those quotes. Work paragraph by paragraph, finding 2 or 3 pieces of evidence per paragraph, and finding how they relate and outline them. Once you figure out the overall point of each paragraph, write that into a topic, sentence, or statement. You're probably going to change this as you write your body paragraphs themselves, but what's the prevailing idea of each paragraph? And after you've gotten each paragraph's main idea, main thought, topic, sentence type thing, what's the main point of your essay? What's your thesis statement going to be? What do you want to argue? And how are you going to prove it? And as part of the writing process, this is a good time to communicate with me. You can drop me an email and say, hey, I'm thinking of arguing X, Y, and Z based off of these pieces of evidence. What do you think? And I reply, hey, that sounds like a great idea, but what if you thought about this? Blah, 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 blah. A great time to bounce ideas off me or off your peers. However, it's a good time to get some outside feedback, is what I'm trying to say. The next step is to write a draft of your body paragraphs. Take a look at your outline and select a body paragraph you want to work on and copy it into another Word document and the quotes along too. And then add your own interpretation, analysis, and writing to the paragraph. You want to be incorporating your quotes into your prose. There are some examples of this on the style guide that's posted onto the on D2L, but also you can take a look at Thomas Zander's work and see how he incorporates quotes. He's quite good at it. How can you work the quotes you've chosen into your prose? You also need to be citing each quote appropriately. According to the Chicago Manual of Style, there are several citation sources or citation guides posted to D2L. Take a look at those. There's also citation information on the essay prompt handout. After you've gotten your body paragraph mostly written, reread it, think about what it's saying, and then write a topic sentence that describes your sub-argument for each of your body paragraph, and also a transition between your paragraphs. Repeat for your other 2 or 3 or 4 body paragraphs until they're in a pretty good shape and you feel pretty happy about it. And then I'd recommend that you take a break. Go do something else, go to a different class, work on an entirely different subject, do something else for a little while. At this point, you have your body paragraph written. You have the main points of your essay pretty well articulated. You know what you're arguing, basically. Your thesis statement is the next thing you want to work on. In this second bullet point here, right here, this is a thesis statement about making thesis statements. So effectively, what you want is an argument. So the argument in this one is a thesis statement is effective in making a claim. That is the main argument. The arguments of the paper would be because it's concise, because it details its main arguments and provides insights into the author's position. So if I, as the reader, get to this sentence, I will know that I'm about to read an essay on why thesis statements are effective. It's the same thing. If you're arguing about the Coal Wars, you could say the Coal Wars were because X, Y, and Z, the main points you're going to make in your essay. After you've got your thesis statement articulated, write your introduction. Start with a compelling hook. You want something that's going to grab my attention, whether it's a pithy anecdote, whether it's a major claim, whether it's a question, something like that. You want to grab the reader's attention right off the bat. You also want to fill in the reader with some background details. So basically, quickly answer the 5 questions: who, what, when, where, why. Just give me some details. Write to a level that you assume that your reader has a basic familiarity with historical method, theory, that sort of thing, but doesn't know the exact details of the event under consideration. And also consider a roadmap. It can be in your thesis statement, but your reader wants to know what they're going to read about in your essay, so how it's going to flow. After you have your intro written, write your conclusion. Reread your whole essay. Read it from the intro, from your hook, down to the end of your final body paragraph. Figure out what you're arguing, and then rephrase your thesis statement. Offer a statement on why your thesis statement matters. The so what question. Why do we care about this? Raise some larger questions. Or offer a discussion of some of the ramifications in your thesis, in your conclusion. This is another great time to communicate with me. It really will. I'll be able to say, okay, so I think you should elaborate more on this, or have you considered this, or this part doesn't quite make sense, or your body paragraphs are great, but they're not really supported in your conclusion. I can offer some of those suggestions. So, more on thesis statements. There's a couple things that I really emphasize in trying to craft them. Your thesis statement should be perfectly clear. There should be no doubt of what you're trying to say. Be concise with your language. Your body paragraphs are going to do the arguing. You need to distill them into a few words, which I call the sub-arguments. Look to your topic sentences for where to get the sub-arguments of your thesis statement. And then also detailed. Be specific with what you're discussing and what you're arguing. It helps a lot with the writing process and with the editing process and with the overall readability and argument. The next major step in the writing process is to reread it, peer review it, and edit. I'd again recommend taking a little break, do something else, take your time on this, and then print out a copy or two of your paper. Put all the distracting stuff of the 21st century, your phone, your laptop, etc. Put it away, put it out of reach. Grab a pen and your paper and read through your essay. Make corrections, notes, and outlines. You can reverse outline if you're not very good at putting a flowing argument together. You can write a reverse outline. That basically means you take a look at what you've written and write down your argument. And also, read your essay aloud. You'll find a lot of errors of grammar and style if you take the time to sit down with your essay and read each word. A lot of it will be how it flows off of your tongue. Like, do you feel like you need to breathe in the middle of the sentence? That indicates that you probably need punctuation. Do you feel like the sentence just sort of stopped abruptly. You might need to add to it. It's one of the best methods that few people actually do to catch errors of style, errors of flow, and you can also be able to give your paper a bit of a rhythm in the readability of it. I'd also strongly recommend that you have someone review your essay. If you have a classmate you trust, you guys can exchange essays for editing. Just don't have them too close, because Turnitin will catch it. All your words need to be your own, but you can have a friend take a look at your essay, tell you what you can improve. You don't want somebody to just read it, make no notes, and hand it back and be like, oh, it's good. That is not a very useful editor. You want someone that's willing to say, so this point's good, this point needs improvement. I didn't quite understand how this connects to this, that sort of thing. And then edit your own essay. Take your notes and the comments of your peer reviewer and make the changes. If you don't like some of their suggestions, you don't have to make them, but at least acknowledge them and take them into account. And then edit into a final form. At this point, your essay is pretty well good to go. So check over a few things before you drop it into the assignments box. Take a look at the essay prompt and reread the whole thing. Then reread your final draft. Do you address the question you were trying to answer? And do you take care of all of the other things on the essay prompt? Next up, in Word, run the spelling, grammar, and style check. Make sure that all of the little squiggly lines, unless they're like somebody's name, go away. Make sure your name and an innovative title are on the top of your first page. That is a good way to really grab my attention, whether it's there or not there. Because if it's there, I'm like, hey, cool title. If it's not there, I'm like, well, I don't really remember whose essay I'm reading. Take another look at the style guide and also these slides. I'm going to post these slides in two formats. One, the YouTube video with my annoying voiceover over them, and two, just the raw PowerPoint file so you can just click through them and see my various suggestions for the various writing process steps. Take a look at the style guide as well. Do you fall into any of the patterns or problems outlined in there? Are your quotes well integrated? Do you use the first person? Stuff like that. Correct those issues. Take a final look at your essay. If you can, take a little break in between your final read and your final edits, and make sure you're satisfied. It's something you should be happy to stand behind. If you're not, make a few modifications to it. Then save and close Microsoft Word and the Word document. If you submit an unsaved Word document, it might end up submitting a draft you were working on an hour ago that just didn't get saved and doesn't have your final edits and your best work. So make sure you save it and close it. And I look forward to reading them. This is a good chance to show what you've learned, but also assess what you've learned so far. See what's changed in your thinking in the first 8 weeks. So good luck. Be sure to email me with any questions. I'm happy to take a look at drafts with enough notice beforehand and give you some thoughts and comments. But yeah, drop me an email. Be in contact with me. All right, that's it for this little digression on essay writing and stuff.